That's coercive. So the more things we can do in the private sector and the less in the public sector, the more civilized we are and the less barbaric, because it's barbaric to force people, innocent people, to do things that they don't want to do. The only legitimate force is defense, to make sure that rapists and murderers don't do their thing. The second reason is efficiency. You get more bang for the buck in the private sector than in the government. Whenever they've done statistics like when you have private and public functioning side by side, the private is always more efficient. I've already given you one example of the police. Private police are more efficient than government police. In sanitation, you can remove a ton of garbage much more cheaply in the private sector than in the public sector. Post office, the Pony Express, the Wells Fargo, all these mail deliveries are much more efficient than the U.S. Post Office or the Canadian Post Office. Why? Why is pizza pretty good? Why are cookies pretty good? Not perfect, but pretty good. And why is it when you go to the Motor Vehicle Bureau, it's a horror, or the post office is a horror? The reason is that if in the private sector you don't do a good job, you lose money. People go to the competitor. And if you lose enough money, you go bankrupt. And the remaining ones are a little bit better. So pizza is pretty good, not because you have government pizza checking authorities or anything like that, but because of private competition. Well, so what I want to do is to apply this view, that competition makes a better product at a lower price, and apply it to hitherto unexplored examples. It's too much of a, an easy task, a low barrier to jump over to say, well, we should privatize the post office. I certainly favor that, but we got to stretch a little bit. We don't want to have too easy a case, because then people say, well, yes, you can privatize that, but how about roads? You can't privatize roads. So let's talk about privatization of highways, streets, roads, and then I'll get to bodies of water like lakes, rivers, and oceans, and I'll be very critical of my two colleagues teasing us about dumping, tomato juice into the ocean, and then you get to own the ocean. Bunch of commies. I mean, that's a disgrace. Paul, you got to be more careful who you invite here. I mean, those guys are just pickos. Okay, so let's do roads first. Why do I want to privatize roads, apart from illustrating that libertarianism is a robust kind of a thing and that private property can work in any avenue? There are two reasons. One, highway fatalities. In the U.S., the highway fatalities for many years was around 40,000, 38,000. I think it's dipped down to 32,000. It might be because of the Depression. It might dip up again. They have done a little bit better, not in terms of gross numbers of deaths, but number of deaths per mile traveled, per 100,000 miles traveled. It's down a little bit. A lot of that is due to better cars, which I don't think the government can take credit for, but that's a different issue. But the point is that even if only 35,000 people are dying on the U.S. highways, that's horrendous. To put this in perspective, oh, and by the way, the Canadian thing is usually 1/10. Whatever statistic you get for the U.S., for Canada, it's usually around 1/10. So around 3,500 people die in Canada on the highways. With so many people dying, probably every family knows somebody, either in the family or a friend of a friend, who died on the highway. And this is a horrible thing. To put it in perspective, the number of people who died in 9/11 in the World Trade Center in those days were only 3,000, which is 1/10. And yet we went berserk, we've got to stop terrorists and all this. Well, what about government terrorists who are killing people, dying like flies on the highways? In Katrina, the aftermath of Katrina, it wasn't Katrina's fault, it was the fault of FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers. 1,900 people died. Well, 1,900 people, any death is a disgrace, like of this sort, apart from the natural death. But it pales into insignificance compared to 35,000 deaths. 35,000 deaths is a horrible thing, and that's my main motivation. And in this regard, I dedicate the book I wrote in 2009 on this. It's on the web for free. Go to the Mises web and you'll get the book. To MADD, M-A-D-D, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. See, the problem with Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, they don't have their own road to show how they would run a road. Whereas in the environmental areas, Sierra Club, Ducks Unlimited, all those groups, Western Wilderness Concept, they can each buy up some land and show how they would run it. Well, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers can't do that because it's illegal to own a road privately. My second reason is much less importance. It's congestion. In many major cities, certainly Vancouver included among them, if you try to go along the Lionsgate Bridge in the morning, it's just, backed up traffic, and the government is responsible for that as well. Okay, so my claim is that the government is killing a lot of people, and this is unjustified and we shouldn't have it. And a lot of people are going to say, well, the real reason for deaths has got nothing to do with the government. What's the cause of deaths? And they start listing things, and maybe you people can help me with what the road socialists say. What are the reasons that they give for highway fatalities?
Poor drivers.
Poor drivers. Okay, so we have driver error.
Speed.
Drugs.
Speed. Drugs. Alcohol.
Weather conditions.
Weather conditions. Vehicle malfunction. And the list goes on and on. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has 125 of these sorts of reasons.
How many?
125. And the most weird things, well, not weird, but how far away is the hospital from the road? Because the closer it is, the quicker you can pick up people and the fewer people die. Do you have a helicopter ambulance? If you do, then fewer people die than if you have a regular ambulance because it takes longer time. What's the proportion of small cars? What's the proportion of new drivers? They're very clever. They come up with 125 different reasons. All of it is nonsense. These are proximate causes. Proximate causes, not ultimate causes. Let me illustrate that. I now take a gun and I shoot through that wall. I don't know what's in the next room or in the next building. I've got a very powerful gun, a bazooka, and I kill somebody. And you guys grab me and say, Walter's a murderer. And I say, tut tut, not so fast. I didn't kill him. It was the bullet that killed him. I'm innocent. Well, you would reject this argument. You would say, well, yes, the bullet killed him. That's the proximate cause, but the ultimate cause is me. Let me give you another example. We went to the sushi restaurant, a bunch of us yesterday, 10 of us were sitting around a table, and I tell you that the sushi restaurant just went broke. And we're now marketing experts, and we're trying to figure out why it went broke. So why did it go broke?
Bad food.
Help me out. Okay, bad food.
Overpriced. Customers.
Bad food.
Bad location.
High price. Location.
Service. Bad
Service.
High overhead.
Dirty.
Poor money management.
Okay, we now have proximate causes for the restaurant going broke. What's the ultimate cause?
Management.
The manager! The manager didn't hire a better chef. The manager didn't price the things correctly. The manager located it in the wrong place. The manager didn't hire better, servers. The manager didn't give someone a broom.
What about high taxes? It's not the manager's fault.
Shut up. Notice the intellectual rigor here. You're ruining my example.
If that's part of location, for instance, taxes are much higher in Vancouver than they are.
I don't want to talk about taxes. It's the government, my favorite institution. I'm trying to make a point between ultimate and proximate causes. The ultimate cause is the manager. Okay, so let's get back now to this. The ultimate cause here, too, is the manager. And I'll give you 5 guesses as to who the manager of the roads is, private or public.
Government.
Government. Boo. Government. Government is the manager. Government didn't deal with driver error. Government didn't deal with speed. Government didn't deal with drug drivers. Government didn't deal with alcoholic drivers or with weather conditions or with vehicle malfunction. So the point I'm trying to make is we would never in a million years be fooled by this sort of stuff in the restaurant area. In the restaurant area, we know who the problem is. It's the manager. And here, somehow, we figure, well, it's all these things. It's not true. Now, some people say, well, you know, it's really not the manager's fault if you get a bad driver. How are you going to keep the bad driver out? But suppose you had obnoxious customers in this restaurant. Would it be the fault of the obnoxious customer? No, it would be the fault of the restaurant for not getting a private policeman or a bouncer. Right? Because people don't want to go to a bar or a restaurant where there's mayhem. So even though, yes, it's the driver and it's not the government's direct fault, it's the government's indirect fault for not dealing with it. How could they deal with it? Well, a lot of the book deals with this sort of thing. What could they possibly do to improve roads? And I'm no road manager. I don't know. I'm just a mere economist trying to apply stuff that we know that's true about restaurants to apply it to a different area, namely roads. So all of what I say is sort of guesses. Well, right now, the speed limit, I don't know what it is in Canada on the major highways. Where
50 miles an hour?
No, it's more like 100K. 100K. That's the maximum. The minimum, you have to go, what? 60K. Now look, if you're going 100K and it's an empty road, what's happening? People are going right by you like that?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody goes 100K unless you're a little old lady who likes to hog the left lane. People will do, without getting a ticket, 120K.
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the variance in speed. Maybe it's not the speed. I don't know. But I speculate, possibly. See, right now on 3 lanes, the same speed lane for all of them. Maybe what we should do instead is if you have 3 lanes, have, 70K here, 100K here, and 120K there. Or maybe 140K. I'm not sure. Or maybe it should be 80, 110, and 140. Maybe that would be safer. I don't know. But the rules of the road don't come down to us from heaven, from angels or anything like that. The rules of the road come from Ottawa or Victoria or wherever it is. See, if you had different restaurants having different cuisine, different location, different this, we would sort it out. The ones that succeeded in pleasing us, we would patronize, and they could expand, like McDonald's or other restaurants, the Keg, whatever. And the ones that didn't do well, they would fail. And the ones that failed, the good ones would take over their premises, and restaurants would be pretty good, or pretty good. Do we have that in roads? No. One of the things that really ticks me off is when you get 2 trucks, and one truck is going to pass the other truck, and it's going to take 15 miles for it to pass. And when the truck before this one gets out here, everyone tries to sneak in past them to beat the truck before it gets side by side with the other truck, and that could cause damages. So maybe what you do is you give a ticket to the losing truck because he's holding everybody else up. I don't know. Maybe this would work, maybe it wouldn't work, but it's possible that would work. One of the things that really ticks me off is you get the little old lady here, and let's say the limit is 70, and she's doing 70 right there. And everybody has to go around, and it just slows up traffic. Maybe she should get a ticket.